Yeah, I talked before about leading the horse in the right way of riding or right way of training that I'm using. And with time, you will see that unconsciously, with the horse pulls away from you, when he tries to move away from you, you slide the rope or the rein if you are riding him, leading him with a bridle, and allow him to move away from you without moving with him. And when he comes close to you, instead of giving him the rein and moving away from him and allowing him to dominate your space, you collect the rope or the rein and move closer to him. So you do the complete opposite of what most people do. Most people, especially beginners or other good ways of riding, inside the zone of control, let's say, they allow the horse to move away from them and they move with him. So he's pulling them towards his distance or his space and removing them from their space or their direction. And when he comes to them and moves close, they allow him to move close and move away from their space and give him a loose rein or rope. That means the horse completely dominated the space between you and him. That's number one. Number two, the space between you and him will completely change when you ride him. All of a sudden, after leading the horse for 2 or 3 years with a real space between you and him, space visually that you can see, a distance between you and him, and a space in the rope. There is some looseness in the rope or the rein when you are leading him. And all of a sudden, you want to jump on his back and completely collect the rein or the bridle when you are riding him. And someone else is leading you and completely collecting the rope, and you don't want the horse to buck or bull. What do you expect him to do? When you completely switch from someone who's being dominated by him over the space or the distance you have between him and you, to a person who completely wants to control his distance and wants to be completely close to him to a point that he's riding his back. Of course, the horse is going to react in a crazy way, bucking, bolting, and so on. But when your way of riding depends on being that close to the horse. For example, I was leading the horse for the past, let's say, 1.5 hours or 2 hours. And my shoulder is completely touching his shoulder when I lead him from the left side or the right side. Not intentionally, but when you react to what he's doing, he's trying to move away, so I allow him to go away with the rope without moving with him. So he did not take me with him. And when he moves closer and wants to take my distance, I collect the rope and move at him instead of moving away from him. So we end up, most of the lead, walking next to each other to a point that my shoulder is touching his shoulder, my knee is touching his knee, my hip is touching his shoulder, and so on. Which means you are that close to the horse visually, as a distance or a space between you and him, and in the rope. And the feeling between you, your hand and his mouth is connected to each other with the rope, and there is no real looseness in the rope. You're not using strength or power, but again, it's not completely loose. So you are already close to the horse as much as you are going to be when you ride him. The difference is there you are on his back, here you are next to him, but you are very close to a point that you are touching him. Number two, which is more important, the looseness in the rope, which will happen when you ride him with the rein, is already the same. When I ride you, there will not be real looseness in the rein, but it will not be completely power or strength, which is what happened with the rope when I was leading you before riding you. So the switch is not completely different. The only difference, which is a main difference too, of course, but still it's less than the difference with other ways of riding, is that I am on your back instead of being next to you, right or left. But the idea of controlling your space or the distance between us and the looseness in the rope is almost the same. Other ways of riding completely switch and jump from a horse who's completely dominating their space or distance to riders who want to control his distance or space. And they completely switch or jump from real looseness in the rope or the rein when they are leading him to no looseness at all with the bridle or the rein when they are riding him, especially in the first couple of rides. After that, they start to give him a loose rein again and so on. So that's why the first couple of days of riding the horse are going to be the worst or the best, let's say, days or minutes or hours of his life. If you deal with him in the right way, it was completely spooky, but it led to the horse completely trusting you. So it will be the best, let's say, time of his life. Trusting the rider, learning more stuff and so on. So he will be excited and under control. But at that moment, if you deal with him in the wrong way, it will be the worst time of his life, because he will try to fight you back, expecting you to use strength, and you will do that unconsciously. So he will keep being ruined and getting worse instead of getting better. So the idea of jumping or switching from what they do in leading to what they have to do in riding is very weird and funny in my opinion, and it happens for both bad riders who ride in the wrong way of riding and correct ways of riding that use a different style. Other correct ways of riding or styles of riding who completely dominate the horse and or should they say control the horse, because you don't dominate the horse by using strength. Real domination by using strength with horses is not just bad or wrong, it's not going to work with the horse. I'm saying domination that came from your trust. So you're dominating the space, you're dominating the direction, you are the leading stallion, let's say, or you are the leading mare to the horse, but you're not doing it with strength or kicking or biting like they do in their nature. You're doing it by controlling his direction and controlling his body. So they control the horse in many different fields or areas, but when there is real disagreement, the way of riding or the style of riding will be exposed, in my opinion. And nothing exposes the way or the style of riding more than breaking the horse. The first couple of days of riding or leading the horse while someone is on his back exposes the way of riding. A lot of ways of riding totally control the horse to amazing, let's say, levels, even though when he disagrees, when he spooks, when he's afraid, when he's around other stallions and mates, or when you break him, the way of riding will be completely exposed of being a way of riding that works in normal situations. When the horse disagrees, the horse will completely switch from a horse who's completely under control to a horse who's completely out of control.